Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Thriving as a Laryngectomy, Finding Joy and Embracing Hobbies. The webinar today is presented by the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance and the American Head and Neck Society. My name is Lisa Blumenfeld, and it is my distinct honor to be serving as the moderator for today's session. I am the Director of Speech Pathology and the co-director of the Hannah and Mark Lieberman Head and Neck Cancer Center, which is part of Moores Cancer Center at the University of California, San Diego. I've been practicing speech-language pathology for, my goodness, almost 30 years. And yet, I still consider myself quite a newbie in terms of providing care to total laryngectomy patients. I can tell you with confidence that in all my years of experience, nothing has brought me more challenge, more joy, and more professional satisfaction than working with this extraordinary patient population. And I'm extraordinarily grateful to my institution, my coworkers, my phenomenal mentor here at work, who has provided me with the skills to provide these patients with the services that they need. Today's webinar is tailored for laryngectomy survivors and their loved ones. This empowering session will delve into the multifaceted journey of life post-total laryngectomy, offering invaluable guidance and inspiration from three truly remarkable survivors who've traversed similar yet unique paths. I think all of us would agree that communication lies at the heart of human connection, and adapting to a new method of communication and expression can be challenging, but when identified can be liberating and maybe even exhilarating. Our panel of survivors today will share their personal experiences and insights navigating the diverse methods of communication devices. We'll highlight unique devices and methods of communication each of our panelists will demonstrate and offer practical tips and strategies to help you find your voice again. Now, beyond the realm of communication, today's webinar will explore the broader spectrum of life after laryngectomy, from adjusting to what everyone talks about, a new normal, to finding joy in familial bonds and cherished hobbies, some old and some new. Our speakers will illuminate the path forward with resilience, optimism, humor, and a spirit of embracing life's possibilities. We highly encourage all of you to take part in making this an interactive webinar. We encourage you to submit questions in the Q&A box that's located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of these remarkable panelist presentations. So to begin, I'd like to introduce you to the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance Ambassador, Mr. Len Black. A little bit about Len. In March of 2020, as COVID-19 was spreading like wildfire across the country, Len was dealing with his own catastrophe. He was diagnosed with stage 4 squamous cell carcinoma of the vocal cords. After meeting with his medical team, he was given the very difficult decision of choosing between chemotherapy and radiation or a total laryngectomy. After long discussions with his wife and his speech pathologist, Len chose to proceed with a total laryngectomy as he was determined to remove the cancer from his body. Shortly after surgery, Len and Margaret decided and were committed to making additional changes in their life and lifestyle to improve their health. They eliminated sugar, vegetable oils, carbohydrates, and processed foods from their diet. Now, many years after a total laryngectomy, Len is thriving, not just physically, but emotionally. Although he took a break from his professional work as a ski instructor in 2021, he has returned with a vengeance to the slopes for the winter of 2022 and 2023, marking his 17th year as a professional ski instructor. He remains extremely active with various exercise activities, but Len is really, truly passionate about assisting other laryngectomies find their hobbies and find their joy.
And I want to also thank the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance for supporting all people who have head and neck cancer. And to all of you out there for attending. I understand that we had over 180 people registered for today's event. I think that's just phenomenal. I want to share with you today the things that I do to keep engaged with life as a laryngectomy. But first, I'd like to ask you a question. What do hospital gowns and insurance have in common? You think you're covered, but you're not. And then I also want to ask you if 4 out of 5 people suffer from diarrhea, does that mean one person enjoys it? Well, let me get serious. I had my laryngectomy. I was diagnosed with stage 4 tumors on my vocal cords on March 31st, 2020, at Mount Sinai Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts. That fortunately, I had good margins all around, and I did not require chemo or radiation, which is really a big deal. Of course, my surgery occurred during COVID, so there were no visitors. I did not see an SLP until about 3 days after my surgery, and that was just to give me instruction on how to use the EL. After that, I didn't see an SLP until I got home. Um, my wife learned how to help me take care of my stoma by using Zoom with the nurses at the hospital. That was great. Um, I was discharged about a week after the surgery, and I stayed in Boston for about a month, then went back to Vermont for another month, and then back down to Florida, where we live in the winter. As you can see on the right, 5 days after surgery, I weighed 195 pounds. The picture on the left from 2013, I weighed 215 pounds, and my wife made more than she wanted to. My goal was to lose weight, to get back in shape, and to become more physically active than I was before. To stay in touch with so many friends and family, we put my story up on caringbridge.com. That way I could communicate with everyone just by posting an update, which I did daily. However, I ask that when anyone replies, they must leave me a joke. I was overwhelmed by the responses. Jokes galore. They kept everyone engaged, and people felt better about accessing the site as the jokes cheered everyone up. Here's a sample of one of the 8 pages of jokes that I saved from Bridge. For the last 17 years, I've been teaching skiing to kids in Stratton Mountain in southern Vermont, where we spend our winters before heading back to Florida. I wanted to return to skiing, so my journey began to get back in shape and to get healthy. I did not teach the first season after my surgery due to COVID. However, I went skiing to learn how to adapt to the wind and the cold. The key was keeping my stomach covered with a neck gaiter. I also experimented with a speaker and a microphone that I wore on my uniform so people could hear me even in windy conditions. I think you can see that in the picture on the left. And my voice attracted a lot of attention from the students, the parents, and the customers. Everybody was very supportive. Also, in the winter, I worked part time at a local Ace hardware store. Nothing helps you overcome your insecurities better than being forced to speak when helping customers. At first, I was tentative about speaking over the phone, afraid people would not understand me, especially since you cannot see my lips move. But I decided that was not my problem. So I forced myself to speak on the phone, especially to strangers, like service people or helplines. I do, however, try to enunciate. Don't be afraid to engage. I have found people to be extremely helpful and friendly. You may notice in the pictures that I do not cover my stoma in public, other than with an HME. I don't have a problem with that. And if other people do, I feel sorry for them. So I say, suck it up, buttercup. I enjoy it when people ask me questions about my voice. especially speaking to kids and children about it. So, getting back to being healthy, when I'm down in Florida, I play golf, I ride my bike, I love to play pickleball. So, whenever I can, I'm out there. We have 6 pickleball courts. Here's a little video. Even though I'm not comfortable swimming as a laryngectomy, I discovered that I could walk in the pool around the edge. The water provides a good distance, and I get to be in the pool. So for me, I had to keep active and I had to keep engaged. I tended to use the speaker and microphone when I'm in loud environments, such as the ballpark or a restaurant. And as COVID eased, my wife and I began to travel again by ourselves and with friends. So you can see my t-shirt on the left is my motto: beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. That's part of my lifestyle change. In the middle picture, I went with 4 other couples, good friends and family. We went to Amsterdam and cruised all the way to Budapest on a Viking cruise. And then my wife and I fooling around in Montreal, where we took our grandkids about 2 summers ago. So traveling is so much fun, and you you have to start to do it to get used to doing it as a laryngectomy. But I've had no problems. I enjoy it. I felt it important to help other laryngectomies, so I became active in the IAL and the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance. In addition to local laryngectomy support groups in Orlando and in Boston, the best thing for my mental health was to become active in these organizations, both as a laryngectomy and socially in my own community. The final picture on the right was taken this past March in Dallas, New Mexico, where our entire family got together for a ski and snowboard vacation. As you can tell, we had a great time. So I just want to thank you for allowing me to share what I love to do. And having a laryngectomy does not stop you from living. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. I don't know about you guys, but I can't take the smile off of my face. And was your wife giving you like little bunny ears in that dinner in Montreal? I love it. And I love seeing you love life so much. We're going to switch over to David Smith. Now time to talk about you, David. David and his wife, Gina, live in Strawberry Plains, Tennessee, and they most enjoy spending time with their kids and their grandkids. These people are busy. They love engaging in a whole host of outdoor physical activities, cookouts, swimming, kayaking, fishing, bicycling, and traveling. Professionally, David's had a very robust professional life. He owned a laundry equipment distributorship. He's owned several laundromats, and he still owns one today. His cancer journey goes back to 2014, where David underwent a total laryngectomy. And between 2014 and 2017, David dealt with, I think, what is the primary concern of every cancer patient, period. And that is the concern about recurrence. He suffered 3 more throat cancer recurrences, as well as a lung cancer recurrence that resulted in 4 additional surgeries. And as if that wasn't enough, in April of 2023, he developed a very painful and disabling neck infection that was caused by a fistula in his esophagus that required an extremely comprehensive esophageal reconstructive surgery. After more than a year of recovery, rehabilitation, and some disability, David has largely recovered, and he has resumed engaging in maybe what is a slightly less intense version of his 35-year exercise routine, It includes hiking, biking, and weightlifting way more than I do. David is feeling good again. He's happy and he's enjoying a wonderful quality of life.
Yeah, David's man and energy. That's a little example of some of the surgeries that I've had. The one on the land was a major. They did a right flap. The one in the middle is where they replaced they put rods and screws in 8 of my vertebrae in my neck. And then the one on the far right is the one in 2023 when they repaired the fistula, which was allowed bacteria to leak into my neck. I'll tell you a little bit about. I did have the 3 recurrences in 2014, head and neck cancer, and then after having 3 recurrences within 7 months after my laryngectomy, I decided I'm going to go to Mayo. I had my laryngectomy at Vanderbilt. I told my wife I want to go to Mayo and get another opinion because I was wondering if Vanderbilt needed to do anything different. So when I went to Mayo, they said, Vanderbilt's done all the right things, but you may want to consider getting more radiation. That was going to experiment sometimes with additional radiation. It wasn't very common in 2014. So they went up a larger area from the tip of my chin all the way down to below my stomach. And it only had about a 25-30% chance to work, they said, but lo and behold, it worked. I haven't had any head and neck cancer recurrence since 2014. Yeah, 2017, I did have lung cancer, but that was a new primary. That was not a recurrence. I just want to point out that second opinions are very important. Second opinions can save your life. If your doctors are confused or a little bit unsure, or you're just not satisfied with the way things are going with your surgery or your doctor, don't get a second opinion. It's worth a little bit of time and travel expense and down up 2 or 3 days. It may save your life. And I want to tell you a little bit about the device I'm using. It's an electrolarynx. All it is a noise maker. Mm. When I breathe the button in, it makes noise. I want to say LOLU without it. LOLU. You see, immediately when I put the noise in my mouth, I'm already forming the words with my lips and my tongue. LOLU. All I need is the noise. Well, that's the noise. Now, you may have noticed that this particular device, I'm going up and down with my voice on a lot of the laryngectomies with an EL. Like this, they talk one note all the time, body tone, and don't do up or down. But with this one, you know, hey, how you doing? I'm doing great. I'll always tell you another one. It's the same bottle. If, if you want your voice to be real high, maybe you're a woman and you don't want the deep voice, you want it to be up. You can do that with this device. It's the only one that'll do that. If you want your voice to be low, the name of this device, it's made by AJOS, AJOS, is an amount, EMOPE. And by being able to raise and lower your tone of your voice, you're able to show your emotion, and it just helps communication a lot. It does make a few bucks. You get pretty good with it, but you can do it if you're willing to put in a few months of practice. Now I'm showing you some of my hobbies, like I just showed you one. I spent a lot of time. How am I doing now? That's where we are now. How am I doing after all those surgeries? I'm doing fine. I resumed the hunting in the woods, family events, fishing with my granddaughters. We went fishing, we go to some beach every year, and we fish on a charter boat. I don't remember which one that was, but, I took the granddaughters, they enjoyed taking fish. I have a boat that's inflatable. It because it's inflatable, it's extremely stable. It's impossible to turn that boat over. I've tried to turn it over. You cannot turn it over. It's the kind of boat they use in the ocean. I have a trolling motor on it, and I do some fishing. So I've been able to. What I've been able to resume is I drive. I write my mind in one words. There I am in the woods about golden new Lord Island. There I am in the top of a 12 mountain elevation mountain in Colorado. I didn't know that man would do that or not. I'm missing more of the line. Now, because your laryngectomy does not make you not be able to breathe well. The only reason I'm not able to breathe really well is when my lung, missing my lung, part of my lung. I just want you to understand that being a laryngectomy, that is not it necessarily make your breathing any. You can still do exercise. And so, so what is all that surgery and everything done for me? Well, you just saw my slides and my activities. It's allowed me to be upstandable, as we call it in the South. I've been able to be upstandable in 10 more years. Don't believe I would have been here if I hadn't gone and done it, sitting in the meeting at Mayo, and I've been able to enjoy my granddaughters, and it's been well worth it. And I'm happy living good to me. I'm doing fine, and I know a lot of laryngectomies that are doing fine, even though I've had a lot of setbacks, and several of them that I know have been at least 2 or 3 regrowths, and they're doing fine. And that's my presentation, and I want to thank you for listening.
That was magnificent. Not only were you, the audience, treated to an amazing presentation on hobbies, but a master class in electrolarynx utilization. I particularly loved how you showed how you could vary pitch. There's so much to be said for gender disparity with total laryngectomy communication. And I just love that, David. Thank you for doing that. All right, so now we're going to move on to Sonia Satinsky, our third panelist. Sonia is an architect. She's the mother of 2 extraordinary young women. She's been married. This kind of got me, they say it in Yiddish, got me in the kishkas, talking about your college sweetheart, your business partner, and the love of your life for many decades. She's an avid reader, and she's a fiber arts hobbyist. I didn't know what that was until I heard your slides. And now she's also a survivor of not only a total laryngectomy, but a total glossectomy. Sonia was diagnosed with adenoid cystic carcinoma in 2022. She underwent a grueling 15-hour surgery, and she woke up without a tongue, an epiglottis, tonsils, hyoid bone, larynx, half a thyroid gland, and 66 lymph nodes. And yet, to her credit, despite it all, she was just bloody happy to be alive. That's how she put it. Since this surgery, Sonia has launched her own website called glossectomygirl.com. She blogs about her journey, and initially it was a site that served as a source of self-therapy, but it's evolved and it's become a way to share information with others. Now it offers helpful research on different ways to speak, on liquid diets, on nutrition, and on the perspective of someone who has navigated this very challenging journey. Pass it over to you, Sonia.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, guys. 2.5 years ago, I had a 100% glossectomy and laryngectomy. This left me without speech. I used type to text to communicate, and what you are hearing is an AI cloned version of my natural voice. But we will touch on that a bit more later. Let's dig into how passions fuel my recovery. My earliest memories of my mom are knitting needles in hand. My grandfather built airplanes in his garage. Making is in my DNA, and my career as an architect reflected that. A few months post-surgery, I had thread and fabric in hand. For me, fiber arts are cathartic and meditative. I started an embroidery journal to express the big and small things going on in my life and brain. Visually, no words, no spoken language. Art is often self-reflective, and I express portions of who I am now, frustrations, joys, and change of identity in my work. Embroidery, punch needle, and knitting help keep me centered. Another childhood interest was pottery, and learning the wheel had always been a goal. I decided to take a class at a local co-op last year. Picture that all your speaking is done with your hands through your phone, and now imagine your hands completely covered in clay. I hadn't anticipated the challenge of asking questions of my instructor or talking to classmates while throwing. Yes, it was frustrating at first. I had to readjust my attitude. I made lists of questions and went early to ask them. I decided to listen to the chatter of the other students and enjoy it without being able to chime in. Designing and making helps me work through my physical and mental changes, both through the process itself and the themes of my work. Learning the wheel is not easy, but when you start to get it, there's a trance-like connection of body and clay. I get into a calm Zen state. But sometimes, smashing shit is just good therapy. In addition to my creative endeavors, I keep active with walking, hiking, home repairs, landscaping, reading, consulting with my architecture firm, and developing and cooking my vegan liquid diet. Okay, I might have a wee issue sitting still. Naturally, I'm also building a nonprofit. VoiceBank now provides education and resources about voice banking and cloning to individuals who are at risk of losing their voice. But let me backtrack for a moment. While many laryngectomies, like Len and David, can speak using a TEP or electrolarynx, not having a tongue is a serious obstacle to speech. Your larynx vibrates, but your tongue and lips shape those sounds into speech. I had 5 short weeks between diagnosis, finding out I would no longer speak, and surgery. Suddenly, my voice, which I never had been all that fond of, seemed very precious to me. At that point, I had never heard of voice banking or cloning. I scrambled and waded through the internet with the vague idea that there must be a way to take my natural voice and use it via computer to speak. I found voice banking, but there was no central organized resource to guide me. So precious time was spent researching, figuring out what hardware to use, if I should record in a studio or at home, what software to use, what hardware was best. Honestly, it was overwhelming, not to mention, oh yeah, the whole cancer thing. I didn't receive any information from providers on these means of communication prior to surgery, frankly, because most of them hadn't heard of voice banking themselves. 2.5 years ago, when I lost my voice, traditional voice banking synthesis was really the only option. We are suddenly on the cusp of an entirely new world with AI voice cloning. The first time I heard a cloned version of my voice, I literally burst into tears. I had no idea how much identity was tied to my voice and expressing myself. The older technology of voice synthesis, which you will hear me speak with during discussion, yields a flatter, toneless version of voice. AI is opening doors for full expression through personalization, intonation, and cadence. Why is this so important? Because expression is integral to connecting. This is why I am creating VoiceBank Now, a resource to be shared with those at risk of losing their speech, to educate and streamline their process. For me, paying it forward by contributing to a community is a powerful way to stay engaged. My passions and my family are core to keeping my sanity and rebuilding my life. Thank you all for listening to my voice.
Thank you, Sonia. That was inspiring. And frankly, prior to meeting you and prepping for this webinar, this was something that frankly I didn't even think about. And since have really thought a lot more, have found some limited resources, but this is really is groundbreaking, and I think will also lead to advances in communication for other individuals with other forms of communicative impairments outside of head and neck cancer. So that's extraordinary. We have several slides that are referencing, I'm sure everybody's asking, resources that are available to laryngectomy patients, survivors, and their families. This list is being posted in the chat, and this session is being recorded and will be available in a few days on the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance website for reference. So don't worry if you feel like you're missing something, we will have it available for you. I wanted to remind everybody to please take the opportunity to tap into the extraordinary experiences of these incredible panelists and submit questions to stimulate thoughts and ideas, because we're going to open it up now to some questions. So let's see, I'm going to actually kick off the questions because I've been listening diligently, and just in regards to my own experiences with my patients, I think the number one question that I get from my laryngectomy patients is, why do laryngectomy patients generate so much mucus? When will it stop? And is there anything that I can do to make it stop faster? So I think I speak on behalf of any speech pathologist that's on the call. This is definitely I think the number one question that we get and concern that we get. Leonard or Sonia or David?
Well, frankly, from what I've learned, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but mucus is essential to life. Without mucus, we die. So I don't really, the mucus doesn't bother me. I'm happy to have mucus because I'm alive.
Any other thoughts? Oh.
Yeah, I would say that during the first 2 or 3 months after my laryngectomy, as well as the first 2 or 3 months after my recurrent surgeries, I had a lot of mucus, but then it slowed way down within 2 or 3 months. I don't know if it does for everybody or not.
Like it doesn't really bother me that much. It is lessened over time. But again, it's a natural bodily process. So you're gonna have mucus. You worry when you don't.
I've got a question about the AI voice option. Sonia, is it an app? Is there an app? Is it expensive to use?
So there is a third-party phone app. However, it's not great. And right now that app costs $25 a month. And the voice costs $24 a month.
Okay. Another question for you, Sonia. How do you spontaneously communicate with text to voice when you're a slow typer?
Learn how to type faster. After you do it a lot, you just get faster.
Got it. Another question that came in, especially talking about recurrence. What actions can, I mean, this isn't just head and neck cancer patients, but I would say cancer patients in general. Is there anything you can do to prevent a recurrence of cancer that you can think of or suggest?
Well, I firmly believe that cancer is a metabolic disease. And so you want your metabolism, you want to be metabolically healthy. So what does that mean? Well, from my research, I believe that it means you reduce significantly the amount of sugar in your diet. Um, you eliminate seed oils. You exercise. Primarily, though, it's the elimination of sugar. Cancer, from what I've read, cancer loves sugar. So when you starve the cancer, when you starve cells by preventing extraordinary intakes of sugar, you reduce, in my opinion, you reduce the risk of cancer reoccurring as long as you're metabolically healthy. Now, it's not easy to do, but we have much too much sugar in our diets, in my opinion.
Got it. Okay, let's see. I think this, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sonia.
I agree with Len on sugar, but he and I are going to get into another webinar if we start debating vegan all food versus red meat.
I think that'd be fun.
Would be
Let's
fun.
do it. Let's do it. Someone asked a question, Sonia. Do you have some like pre-made responses that are kind of wrote things, or no? Do you use that option?
But really it takes longer than typing for me.
You know, there's a gentleman, I don't know if he's done in the webinar or not. He developed a device and he has pre-recorded messages on that device, and you press a button and it'll play that message. And I think that's pretty neat. I just can't remember his name.
Yes, someone, Dan said, uses the Tell Me app for Android and has a bunch of canned pre-prepared messages.
That'll work.
Yeah, yeah. And coming from the world of augmentative, assistive communication and speech pathology, there are other resources for folks. But I will have to say, Sonia, that the way your voice sounds is so extraordinary, natural, authentic, beautiful to listen to. And I would assume it brings you immense joy and your family to hear that beautiful voice. I would just have to assume that.
I have some pre-prepared messages that are not appropriate for this webinar.
Does it go with the thing with the clay? I have a question for David. Did you try neck placement with the electrolarynx before going to the intraoral system?
I did. As a matter of fact, I placed it on my neck for about 7 years. And then I ended up having a problem with it would make me lightheaded. It made me a carotid artery issue. And so now, as I place it on my neck, late in the day or if I'm tired, it actually makes me get really lightheaded. So I had to learn to use the oral adapter in my mouth.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, in our experiences, most individuals use the neck placement, but I have to say, man, your intraoral speech paired with that amazing Tennessee accent is fantastic. I mean, I have a comment question, as a speech pathologist, and I'm not sure if there's speech pathologists that are on the call. One of the things we talk to our laryngectomy patients about is exposure to water. And here we're running a webinar and we've got both of you guys around water, in water. That's, for lack of a better term, that's kind of ballsy, right? Is that something that, when did you decide to resume that? Because obviously that's a activity that in many instances a medical provider might tell you not to do, but when did you start to feel comfortable to do that?
And was when I want to get in the water, I put it on the base plate. They stick on your neck. I believe Len may have one on, and Sonia may have one on. But then you have I'm going to call it a filter that it goes in the middle of the egg you eat. And if you press in on that, if you press in on the eggs you eat, it does not allow air or water to go either way. So I mean, you can actually press in and tuck your head underneath your hair wet, get your face wet. So I'm not saying to do that. Everybody has to decide what level of risk they want to take. But I didn't mind doing that. So I do some of that. But the medical world says do not do that. It's very dangerous.
I feel the same way. I have a very deep set stoma. Like I'm not pressing my HME, I'm pressing my base plate to keep air from leaking because my stoma is so deep that I can't get the base plate to sit and seal properly. So I was worried about going in the water, but I realized that if I could stand and hold on to the edge, I would be okay. And it, being in Florida, it's nice to get in the water every now and then.
Mhm.
You know, it's funny. I never think about it when I'm on the mountain. The snow doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I've never gotten in deep enough snow to get above my head anyhow. At least not yet.
So Len, I have a question for you. I see you've got the hands free.
Sure.
When you're on the mountain and you're skiing, what do you do in terms of communication to, let's say you need to talk to someone as, while you're skiing, how do you, how are you able to access your TE voice, with that leak around the base plate?
Well, it's very difficult, but fortunately, the cold weather is better than the heat. The heat in Florida and the moisture from sweating releases the glue, whereas the cold weather, it stays on pretty well. So with my microphone in my mouth, literally in my mouth, I can speak and they can hear me through the speaker. But my neck is also covered by the neck gaiter, so I really can't budge too much. But I have pressure against my DEP anyhow, my HME, I mean. Um, and it works. Sometimes I have to turn my speaker down. It talks too loud. People look around, but everybody knows me because I'm the guy with the speaker.
I love it. A serious question. We know that suicide rates are unfortunately woefully high for survivors of head and neck cancer specifically. What do you think is the first step for someone who has just come out of surgery, is sort of facing down, looking down at this life, this new life? What is like the first step that you would recommend to someone, to really try to avoid, or avoid that situation and really try to spearhead a better, emotional status? What would you recommend? And I'd love to hear from each of you.
It's what I did. It's in reality pretty bad. I guess I'm fortunate to be able to do that. And when I found out I had cancer in my esophagus and that I was going to get a laryngectomy, I accepted it. And I was all right with it because without the laryngectomy, I knew I would die. So I wanted it. And so I had already learned a little bit about electrolytics, so I figured I would be able to communicate. So I was all right with it because if you had to accept where you are and then go from there, build from there.
It's a lot to do with your mental attitude and your approach, your emotional stability, but also your your excuse me, your social network, your caregiver, especially. I mean, my wife was instrumental in helping me get through this. She was there the whole time and supported me and helped me. She doesn't treat me any differently, but I had a desire to live. I didn't want to not live. I wasn't going to let this be me. It's just my voice. I can figure out a way around it. Um, I was more worried about cancer spreading than losing my voice. But again, it's how you are mentally and emotionally.
For me, I really tried to focus on my day by day and my small victories. If I started thinking about how far I had to go, it was just overwhelming. And do not be afraid to ask for and get help. For me, my family, both immediate and extended, was critical, and my job.
Those are really good answers. I appreciate that. Len, I got a question for you. How often do you have to replace your TEP? How long does your TEP last?
Yeah.
And did you ever try an electrolarynx?
Yeah. First of all, my DEP was installed during my surgery because I went in during COVID. So the doctors told me, look, we're going to put it in now because we don't know when you'll be able to come back in. We didn't know what's going to happen during COVID. I was lucky just to get my laryngectomy done. I didn't know until the day before whether they were going to allow me in the hospital or not. My DEP gets replaced about every 6 months or so. Sometimes it's 4 months, sometimes it's 5 months, sometimes it's 7 months. I take a look and see it, how clean it is. But it's a very simple procedure. I go in, my SLP does it in about 10 minutes. I do use electrolarynx. I have it as a backup in case something happens with my DEP. So I can use the same one that David has, except I put it against my neck. But I use the emote electrolarynx because I like playing with intonation and cadence.
I wish I could have you in my clinic. We always talk about the importance of being bilingual and having different forms of communication. And it's a challenge. It really is. It is a challenge. I had a question about submerging base plates. So the question is, I've tried submerging, but the base plate starts to dissolve. What kind of base plate do you use in the water? Does the adhesive still adhere in the water?
I don't know that it's designed to be submerged. And I think the better for people to ask that and the suppliers like Atos and Inhouse, the people that make the base plates and the adhesives. Although silicone glue is pretty water repellent, water resistant, but when you're sweating, there's nothing that holds that base plate on.
Yeah. And just want to restate the fact that we don't recommend submerging base plates. I just want to be very clear. We don't.
They do make large and small. Some of the base plates are smaller and round, some of them are oval shaped and they're larger. So if you use the larger it is, you know, you have a little bit more security there. And I found a skin grip that's made out of pine rosin, and it gets better now. I use two coats. I'm gonna do one coat, let it dry, and then do another coat, and then get it in the bowl. But whenever I'm under the water, I'm glazing in on the edge of the meat. So even if the glue melted a little bit, I'm still pressing the seal with my finger.
Sonia, I have a question for you about your diet and the notion of being a total glossectomy really changes the texture of the food that you can have. And I know that you're a proud vegan. I'm just curious how you acclimated to a more of a liquid texture diet. And what do you love? Like, how did you turn that into, it seems like you've turned everything else positive. I mean, how do you sort of view that new style of eating?
Well, here again, I was super happy just to eat anything orally because I originally thought I would have a PAG forever. So my taste is not like before. It's hard to describe. Mostly my food is for health, for sustenance, which is fine.
Another question for you, Sonia. If you use your text-to-speech on the phone, how do you introduce your voice and explain the need for a delay, that there will be a delay in responses?
Honestly, I avoid phone calls. It's very difficult. People not used to it. To use it with my family. I try to use Zoom or online resources as much as possible.
Got it. A question for Len and David. Have either of you used esophageal speech as a backup?
Right. To learn esophageal speech through the IAL, International Association for Laryngectomies. I found it difficult, frankly. Like some people get it right away, others it takes time. And I found that it was just easier to use my DEP. But I would recommend.
You know some laryngectomies that are really, really good. I know 3 of them that are really good at esophageal. And when I moved her to talk, I thought, that's a real voice. I couldn't believe they were using esophageal. But like Len said, it's really hard for some people to learn it. It can be really hard to learn.
All right, last question. It's like sort of like real quick from each of you. I know there's at least one new laryngectomy on this webinar right now. And if you had to offer one sentence of hope and encouragement, what would it be? Len, can we start with you?
So say to be patient and realize that it will get better day by day.
David?
But you have to accept that that's the new you and try to be okay with it and just get out there and try to get back in circulation. And the sooner you do, the more okay with everything you'll be.
And Sonia?
Yes, give your body grace. It takes everyone a different amount of time to heal. So listen to your body.
All right, people, I don't know about you, but that was fantastic. I really want to thank from the bottom of my heart, personally, Len, David, Sonia, for being such extraordinary panelists. It's been such a wonderful journey to get to know all of you. I'm inspired by you. You make going down to the clinic room and working with total laryngectomy patients, all patients, even more rewarding and inspiring. Your tips, your insights for patients and for their loved ones has really been just an extraordinary experience. I also want to give a special shout out to the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance and the American Head and Neck Society, specifically Eileen. I know she's on the call. She's a rock star and really is instrumental in ensuring that these offerings are put on just perfectly. I just want to thank everybody so much for joining the webinar, Thriving as a Laryngectomy, Finding Joy and Embracing Hobbies.